Welcome to Timebender Talks, the ultimate destination for professional photographers. This weekly podcast is hosted by Peggy MacArthur, a certified professional photographer with over 30 years experience and the creator of the Headshot Strategist certification program. Peggy interviews a diverse range of experts in business, branding, marketing, networking, and photography. So whether you've been doing this for years or you're just starting out, we've got you covered. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our latest episodes filled with tips, insights, and lots of fun.
Well, I am excited to have Bonnie with me today. We are closing out our season. We just have a couple of more episodes left. And so far, every single guest that I have had on here has been amazing. And today will not disappoint. Bonnie, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and where you are on your journey.
Okay. Well, I live in Nebraska. I grew up in the Midwest and I got into photography in high school and it kind of had it as, a side hobby forever, tried lots of different genres, and then finally officially started my own photography business in the beginning of 2015 and focus on maternity families and newborns. I have dabbled in headshots a little bit, but it's not my favorite. And I also, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'm losing, with COVID and everything too, I feel like time is just gone. But I also created a online photographer directory for US photographers, all portrait genres, called Happily Ever Photo. And that is unique in several ways, but we can talk about that if you want to. But that's who I am.
That's awesome. And my journey started out very similar. I was very young when I got my first camera, and then right after high school, I interned with a photographer, and then I specialized in portraits, high-end family portraits, but really in maternity, newborn, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months a year. Baby's first year. I had a package called Watch Me Grow, and that was my bread and butter. That was, because these clients come back every 3 months. So it was, once you got them in, it was a good, but then I did the senior pictures and the family portraits and all those as well. So what is it that you are the most passionate about with your photography?
So that's funny. If you would have asked me even a year and a half ago, I would have said if I could just do newborns all day, every day, that's all I would do. Like, forget the families, I mean, I like maternity, but if I had to pick one, that's what I would have picked. And then a year ago, or maybe a year and 2 months ago, I got a drone. And I started incorporating that into my family and my maternity sessions. Obviously, you can't use it for newborns, that would be weird. And obviously outdoors. And it just lit a complete new creative spark in me. And now my absolute favorite thing is drone family portraits. So,
Oh, how
yeah.
fun. That I did not know about that. So I just learned something new about you. That's really cool. So do you have to get licensed to do that? I know in California you have to get licensed. Is that
Yeah, it's a federal regulation. So in order to fly a drone for business purposes, you have to have an FAA license to do it. So yeah.
wow? So you kind of have a pilot license, right? It's like an edge of a pilot's license. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Exactly. I could just say pilot license and just leave the drone part out of it and I'll feel
right.
way cooler.
That sounds super cool. That's really cool. That's really neat. My son had a drone, and we never used it for professional. Whenever anybody would ask me if I offered it, I was like, no. But I know people that do, like, hire them because that seemed like something that would just consume way too much of my time. I love shiny things, so like a new electronic toy. Are you kidding me? Yes, that sounds really cool. So I'm excited. I'm going to come back to that. We're going to talk about that later. Like I want to see, I want to hear more about this.
Awesome.
So how do you incorporate that into your families? Like do you also do, with your camera and then you have like high angle drone shots, or how do you kind of incorporate that in?
Yeah, absolutely. I carry a ton of stuff with me during sessions. I usually have a giant like wagon pulling behind me with all my stuff because I need a drone and then my backup drone in case I crash my regular drone and then my camera and my backup camera and my props, and it gets to be a little ridiculous. But yes, I carry a lot of stuff and then I just kind of incorporate it throughout the session. So I'll take some regular photos and I'll say, stay right there, let me launch my drone, and I'll take some photos and then put that down and we'll walk somewhere else and on and on.
How fun. How fun. Yeah. When you said, I used to be newborns, but now I was like, oh, she's going to say 6 months because I love 6 months. Like 6 months is to me like the coolest, like, because they can usually set up by themselves or at least almost. And they have this like awareness of the world. It's everything is like, like I love that aha moment. My grandson is almost a year, and I remember like I just couldn't wait to do the 6 months. I'm like because I don't do babies and newborns all the time anymore. I
Yeah.
now pretty much do headshots, both actor and corporate stuff. So I was so excited to get in there and do 6 month pictures again because to me that's just so exciting. But you threw a curve. You said a drone, which I did not expect. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. It was several years ago that I was looking into adding something new to my sessions, and I like polled my Facebook fans or whatever, and I said, okay, these are the two things I'm considering: drones or adding video, to my family sessions. And which one would you guys be more interested in? And almost everyone went for video. So that's what I started pursuing, and very quickly realized that one, the amount of time that it takes to take and edit video is just, and you need new like software and everything. It was a lot, and my clients were not willing to pay that much extra for that. So I abandoned that one actually pretty quick, and then just kind of went back to the regular thing for a year or two, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna get a drone. I don't even care if anybody
I
wants
don't
it.
care if
I
you want.
I,
I
I want
want a
to.
drone. I don't care if you want this or not. It's like I'm with
Yeah.
you. That's awesome.
And it's taken a long time because from what I can tell, I'm the only photographer in the country who adds a drone on a regular basis into like family and maternity sessions. You see it a lot with weddings, obviously, and then obviously it's all over the commercial world with realty and stuff. But so I didn't really have any examples to show people, and so at the beginning, people were kind of like, this is kind of weird." But then,
Right.
as they kind of get to see what you can do with it, they started to come around.
That's one of my favorite pictures is my husband, myself, our youngest and our son, right after he got his drone. We were just walking and playing with it. And he got a picture of us just walking and hanging out. And it is one of my favorite pictures. I wish the whole family were there because it was one of my favorite pictures because it was, I don't know how to explain. It was an angle that of course I would never shoot at, because, I don't like high angles, but because it is what it is, it was really fun. So yes, I do a lot of video because one of the services that I offer for my actors is to record their self-tape auditions. So it's time consuming. It's a pain in the butt. You have to have sound. It's not just video. You also have to have good sound because nobody will watch a video with bad sound. People will watch a video with bad video quality before they'll watch a video with, so you have to learn how to, you have to learn how to do sound. Yeah, it's a whole lot. So I can see abandoning that. Like, I don't think I would offer that for families. Like, that would be way too much work in my mind for me to want to incorporate in a family session. The only reason I do it is because it's like in the studio, it's contained, and it's, it especially started to be a real need during the pandemic. And then, carried a little bit before the pandemic, definitely through the pandemic, and then a little bit now. So yeah, I spend way more time on video than I wish I did, but that's
Yeah.
because, when there's a need, of course, if you have. But I've learned, and I've enjoyed expanding. I used to be super cocky. I never even took videos of my own kids, like as my kids were growing up. And people are like, "You don't have any videos?" Like, why would I take a video? I can tell an entire story in one frame. I don't need, 50 frames per minute or whatever per second. I'm like, I can do it in like one image. Hello. So I was like, used to be really cocky. So it's funny when I did start learning video, that I was like, oh, I wonder how many people are going to remember how cocky I used to be about how useless video was, that I was better than video.
That's
So
true.
yeah.
I mean, as photographers, we want to be like, why do you need video? We're capturing the memories. And then when I started doing some of it, I was like, oh, and just taking videos of your own family and stuff. Like there are obviously things you can't capture with photos that you can with video. So I
And
really love the medium. I just don't want to
yeah,
do it.
I wished I would have had video of my kids. I literally refused to do any video of my kids. Like my kids don't have any videotapes. Their sports, nothing. Everything is just stills, which is fine. But in hindsight, maybe I didn't have to be so stubborn. I don't know, maybe. But technology today is different. If I had a cell phone with me when my kids were doing little league and basketball and all that, maybe I would have felt different. But back that wasn't an option. You had to have a whole other camera. And why would I carry a whole camera, a whole separate video camera around? And it wasn't all in one like it is now. So that's also a big factor in today, and how we consume images, and how people enjoy and use video images still, and everything. It's completely different now than it used to be. So I think that's part of being a professional, is knowing how to kind of sway and mold and do what is needed and be relevant, always stay relevant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're in Nebraska, you're in a smaller community. I mean, I grew up in not a couple hours from where you are. So I grew up in a very small community, like 800 people in my town, small community. But you live kind of in a city in Nebraska, but like you have traffic lights and stuff, but it's still a small community. And that's one of the things that when I'm talking to photographers all over the country, they'll say to me, well, Peggy, you don't understand. You live in Los Angeles. I live in a small community, so it's different for me. And I'm always like, actually, I started my photography business in a very small community. I grew up in a small community, so I understand living in smaller communities. So yes, it is different, but it's not the same things. You have to do to market yourself and get out there. And in fact, I think it's more important when you're in a small community to stand out, because it's really easy to get labeled as this person that does this one thing, when you live in a small community. So how do you really make yourself stand out? Obviously the drone. What else do you do to make yourself stand out and bring awareness to your photography business?
I think, well, yeah, absolutely the drone. But what I've tried to do over the last 8, 9 years that I've been in business is just true human connection. Because so much that I see now, even, I mean, especially past since COVID, but all of the take this marketing course, and they're teaching marketing, and it's all online. It's like SEO and blogging and social media, but there's like nothing about actually getting out and meeting actual people. And in a market that's as saturated as photography and as extremely saturated as family photography, if someone doesn't personally know you, there's no reason they're going to come to me. And especially when I'm 3, 4, 5 times the cost of what they could find, down the road, or their cousin or whoever who does it. But if they either know me personally or they are referred to me by someone who's very close to them, then that's huge. I mean, that makes such a big difference, and especially in the like middle to upper income class of people, which is like my typical clients now, just because of what I charge. Certainly not all of my clients, but probably the majority of them. Referrals go a long way. Like, who your neighbor used as a photographer is a big deal, or who your networking group has as their photographer. Like, these in-person real connections are really important, and so I've really tried to make that a priority over the last several years, and just like actually know people. And it's incredible how far that goes. And like I said, I live in a fairly small community, but not that small, and at least for Midwestern standards. And it's crazy though how many connections I have through not even just photography, but like all the little things that I do and I've done in the last 8 years. I'll just meet someone on the street and be like, oh my gosh, so and so, and we're connected from this other way. And it's all from these in-person interactions. And I think that is really lost in the newer generation of photographers. Everyone's like, oh, I started my business 6 months ago and I'm doing all the Facebook ads and I offered all these model calls, and why isn't it working? And I'm like, what? Nobody knows and the people who do know you don't want to pay you because they like, your friends and family. So you have to meet strangers, and there's no better way to do that than to actually go out in the real world and do that. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in getting out and being part of your community, being part of things, being heart centered, being true to yourself, and serving your community and being out there. Because if you're just a blip on the a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad, like nobody is going to trust you for that. Why would they? Going to a professional photographer is a big deal, and it should be a big deal. And they need more than that. And I think a lot of things people make the mistake of is, hey, if I show all my work, like that's all I need to do to market myself is show my work. And that's basically putting your resume out and expecting someone to just hire you just by, hey, here's my resume. Like that's not how you get a job, period. So it's, your portfolios, your resume, it shows, yeah, but you've got to have that story, that relationship to actually show that you are the expert in that, and that you can, be personable. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes is thinking that a Facebook ad or a TikTok is going to get you business, instead of going out and really doing the work to make connections and build relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am a huge introvert, so I would love it if I could just put my portfolio out there and people would just flood in, but it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
It's funny because when I started working with photographers, I've been, 35 years this year. I've been a professional photographer, and I had a camera in my hand before that. And so I kind of know how to get clients for my photography business. But when I started working with photographers, I made the same mistake. I was like, hey, I got this thing. You guys want to come over? And everyone was like, no, Peggy, we don't care about your thing. And I'm like, but it's really cool. It'll help you. Okay, bye. And I realized that I had to put the same principles that I'm teaching my photographers to help them, reach clients. I had to do that for this program as well. I had to actually say, hey, how are you doing? What is your problem? Can I help you with your problem? Let's build community. Let me help you. Let me show you. Because an online class is not going to, my husband and I just spent a lot of money on an online class like 3 months ago, and we have still yet to sit down and take the class. And that's so common. And it's like, I don't want that. I want to actually have people come in and succeed. And it's the same thing as a photographer. Like, people will probably put your, hit favorite. They'll favorite your TikTok. They'll favorite your thing. They'll go, oh my God, this is so cool. They'll add it to their Pinterest board, all those things. But when push comes to shove, you haven't shown them a reason to call you and book you.
Yeah.
So, you have to go to that next level and actually have build relationships, talk to people, be seen, and really build that up as someone that can be trusted. And it could be as easy as, giving people tips, in your social media. Give people tips. So how do you find the best photographer? How do you know the photographer is right for you? And show them how to interview you. Give
Yes.
them tips to, and what do you do to get involved in your community? What are you passionate about in your community?
So I mean, obviously, I did all the networking groups, and we have a lot around here. We have just like women only ones, which are great for me because as a family photographer, like that's who's going to hire me, right? Is the mom. And then just the other general networking groups that we have as well. So that's a big thing. And then I've tried to do several different um, coordinated events, or obviously donate to the silent auctions and stuff like that. But with other uh, businesses, some of them I'll put my photos up, for free on their walls if they want me to. We're working on actually, we didn't have enough time this year. We're working on it next year with a dog shelter in town where I'm going to do an event where we're taking photos. We're going to do like a contest. Everyone submits pictures of their dogs, and then like the most votes, the 12 most voted dogs get to be on this calendar, and then I'm going to be the one taking the photos for the calendar. And I'm doing it for free. Like it's just something that I want to do, these kind of organizations. I tried to do it with cats because honestly, given the two options, I'm more of a cat person. But I couldn't get any of the cat shelters to reply to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's nothing cuter than a little kitten swaddled up like a newborn. Like, seriously, it's the cutest thing on the
Oh,
planet. And I just like, we could make a calendar out of that and you could sell them and make money. And everyone is so like
nobody.
spam phobic. You know what I mean? Like they get emails and it's just like, if they don't know the person, it's just like, I don't even want to just delete. I'm not even going to read it because I'm just assuming someone's trying to sell me something that I don't want. So I don't
Yeah.
know. That's what I blame it on. But yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
different things like that with local companies, and obviously referring to other photographers, referring to other businesses, working with other businesses. So I do like events, and I'll use other businesses to like these cookies are provided by this company, and this was provided by this, and you guys all have gifts that are from a locally made
Mhm.
lip balm business, and on and on and on. So I could just try to create real relationships, I guess. And yet, kind of like you were saying, like do things for those people with no expectation of anything in return, but just the fact that they're going to know your name and that you've been a decent human being. And that's worked pretty well.
I think that is key. I think that I know when I do things, I do it because I want to do it. I
Yeah.
don't ever I don't even go to a networking meeting expecting to convert anyone to be a client. I just want everyone in there to think I'm a cool human, so that when they hear somebody needs a photographer, they'll be like, I hang out with Peggy at
Yeah.
this networking thing, and she's actually really cool. You should check out her work. You should give her a call. Because even if I don't do work for someone, that kind of a referral from someone they trust is still more impactful than an ad popping up on social media. Because
Yeah.
if you like me and you trust me, and I say, hey, Bonnie's really cool, I don't know, check out her work, then it's like, well, at least I know she's cool. It's going to be easier to work with her. So maybe I'll check her out. And then I
Mhm.
call you and you're like, cool to me. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So there you go. There's your first two steps right there. So it's always good to just be a decent human. And I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand, but just being a decent human will get you so far in this world. It's sad that we have to talk about that. It's sad that we have to say that, but it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. So tell me, first of all, what is one tip you would give to a photographer starting out, wanting to get their business going? What is one tip you would give to that photographer?
It's tricky. I guess it depends on where they are in their educational knowledge of photography and their experience of actually doing it. If they're in the family photography space, we get a ton of people jumping in who have young children, and they got a camera and they started taking photos, and their aunt told them that the pictures were good, and next thing you know, they're hanging up a shingle and they're photographers. So if it was someone in that situation, I would tell them, step back, because you don't know what you're doing. You just don't. Like, it just takes time. You have to educate yourself. If you don't understand the settings on your camera and how to manipulate them to get the photo that you want, you shouldn't be calling yourself a photographer. You just shouldn't. So until you get that education aspect, and it certainly does not have to be formal education. There are a bazillion podcasts, YouTube episodes, in-person workshops, on and on, that you can go to get this education. But you need to do that first, not just for your own sake and your own self-worth, because doing that is going to give you much more inherent value. Even if it's just in the back of your mind, you've put in all this time and you've made this investment into your knowledge, that it's going to be important. But then also for the sake of your clients, that's, if you can't produce a consistent portfolio for your clients, then you shouldn't be working, and I think that only comes from practice, from education and practice. So if they're in that situation, I'd say step back, educate yourself, practice for free, lots and lots and lots, until you have a handle on your shooting style, all the things that it's going to take, the time that it takes for you to edit your pictures, all the different, CRMs and all the things you're going to use. And then also you create a consistent portfolio, and all your costs, or at least a general estimate of your hard costs of doing business. And then do the math. Do not put your emotion into it. Do not put in the fact that maybe you don't need the money. Do not put in the fact, any of that. Do the math and say, if I had to support at least myself, maybe even my kids or spouse, on this salary, what do I have to charge, based on what I know now and how much time it takes me and what sessions I want to do, and on and on. And then you do that math and you know that number, and you just set your prices there, and you just start running. Like, because I didn't do this. I am totally guilty of not doing this. I did it's just, this is so fun, and I have a little kid, and I'll just do $50 mini sessions. And then, like, over the 8 years, just slowly which is so painful and just such a waste of time. And it's not doing anybody any favors, right? Because you're teaching the market that photographers should be cheap, which is terrible for everybody. I'm not coming with I had a good education on photography, like the technical side of it, but I didn't have enough practice in the actual reality of shooting families before I started charging for it. So my portfolios were not consistent at all. So I was doing them a disservice. Granted, I wasn't charging very much, but I shouldn't have been charging at all. And then it just makes it way more painful as a business owner, because you either have to make that giant jump to this profitable price, or you have to sit there and eke your way up incrementally, like I did, and not be profitable for year after year after year after year, until you finally get to this point where you are. And it's just, yeah, it's a terrible way to do it. So I would never advise anyone to do it that way.
I say that I ran a very profitable hobby for the first 15 years of my business because I didn't have any idea about how to run a business. And I was lucky, and I worked a lot, and I was fine with working a lot. And that's probably what made me, got me the skills that I have, is because, I came up in a time where, it was film, and, I would do several sessions a day, every single day. So I was very busy. But when I tell you that what I charged was just like, when I look back on it, it's like, what I left laying on the table is just like crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but I could not agree with you more. Educate yourself. Get into a community that's going to help you learn the basics of running a business, and learn, all of those things, because that's how you're going to move forward. And my goal is to change the world. I mean, small goals, right? Small goals. But I really want to draw a line in the sand between an amateur and a
Yeah.
professional. And I really want there to be a difference. So when people hire a professional photographer, they know what to expect. A certain level of professionalism, a certain level of, a quality and knowledge. So that's what I want to do. So I'm right there with you. So
Yeah,
tell
it's
us.
interesting.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
go for it.
Nope. Nope. Go ahead.
I was just going to say there was some comment on Facebook earlier this morning that was a photographer who was talking to her husband, talking about her husband, saying that, is my husband right in this because they've been going to these photographers who are, profitably priced. They're, I don't know, like expensive. That's so loaded, like who knows what that means to her, but she's like, they charge way more than I do, so we're going to these people who, cost a lot to us. And my husband is upset because he thinks that the level of customer service should go up with the price tag, and if you're paying that much, like, we should be getting good communication, we should be getting good images, we should be getting like all of these things, and he's not getting it, and do you guys think he's justified? I'm like, yeah, of course he's
Absolutely.
justified. Like,
I,
that's what I would expect.
if you don't have a calendar, if you don't have communication, if you've got like, if your client doesn't even know how to pay you, I
Mhm.
mean, if there isn't even a system in place so that they know how to pay you, or they're reminded and they know where to show up, they know what to expect, then how do you call yourself a professional? Like, you wouldn't put up with that if you went into a restaurant and you sat down and you were like, I'd like to order, the sandwich. And they're like, oh, okay. Let me go see if I can figure that out. And then they come back with something totally different. You wouldn't be okay with that. But yet that's what people do when they go to a photographer. Like,
Yeah.
when if they're not professional, they go in and the photographer's like, oh yeah, so what do you want to do? And they're like, well, what do you mean? What do we want family portraits? Okay, well, what were you thinking? And it's like, what was I thinking? I was thinking I hired a professional that was going to walk me through this, is what I was thinking. So yeah, that's my mission in life. I want to change the world. So I think you're with me, right? We're going to change the world together.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take a few minutes now and tell us about your list that you've got going, because I'm excited to know more about that.
Yeah, so it's for strictly right now for US based photographers, but portrait photographers of any genre. So you can go from boudoir to wedding to newborn to pets to headshots, and so on. And the directory, first of all, we only allow photographers who charge profitable pricing. And I know that that term is, that number is different for location and so on, but I've set kind of like a generic bottom. And unless you charge the minimum amount, you cannot be listed on the site, because I'm just not interested as a photographer myself in advertising people who it's not good for them and it's not good for the industry, to be charging those prices. So that is our requirement to be listed. You also have to have a website, which I would hope really that anybody who's a professional, I mean, I'm sure there are some exceptions, but not many, but um, and then the directory is unique. And first of all, that it's all portrait genres. Most directories are just weddings. But also that we have a lot of filters that you can use, so you can really hone in on what you're looking for. So we have a filter for editing style, which I have examples for. The general public may not know what a moody editing style looks like, but they know that they like it when they see it. And so people are drawn to certain photographers who edit a certain way. So we
Mhm.
have a filter for that. We have a filter for years of experience, obviously for location. Um, you can check a little box to say that you want a specialist, which means that this photographer only does one or two genres. They don't do, weddings and families and newborns and headshots and on and on and on, which can be important for some people for sure. And we have a lot of other filters as well, but you can really use those to hone in on that perfect photographer for you. The directory is, listings that all have 3 portfolio images on them. You can go to the photographer's profile page, but then also from there you can go to their website. So yeah, I created it, like I said, a couple of years ago, and it's been a labor of love for sure. It's the process to make it, the process to even tell people about it has been incredibly time intensive. But I'm proud of what it's become for sure. And the community that we have now is they're just incredible. We have about 1,100 photographers on there. And I don't know, I just love them. They're so wonderful and supportive. And yeah, they if they weren't there, if they weren't there encouraging me, there's no way I'd still be doing it.
That is awesome. I love it. I love to find other photographers that want to raise the bar for photography. Because for me, I grew up thinking that a photographer was the most amazing career in the world. I mean, we capture history, we tell stories, we capture time. And I used to say, when people would ask me what I did for a living, I'd say I sell time travel, because I capture your most important memories and I allow you to travel back in time and visit them. That's why this is called Time Benders Talk, because photographers, time benders, right? Time travel. But it's, to me, such a important job. And I feel like people have forgotten, because everyone has a camera in their cell phone. They've forgotten that professionals actually offer other things besides just pictures. The whole experience, the way it's done, the professionalism involved. It's a whole experience. So I love that you're out there helping me raise the bar and change the world and bring the professional back to professional photography. So I love that. And I think, you mentioned that, you had to charge a profitable fee to be in. And I think that that's part of running a business. That's just part of running a business. And when we try to undercut each other, we're just cutting our own self down, because if we all pull each other up, then we're helping each other. Like, hey, I'm up here charging this. Come up here. Instead of, oh, you're charging that, I'm going to charge less and tell everybody I'm cheaper than, I've actually seen ads where photographers have literally said they were cheaper than me. Like, that was their whole ad, was they're cheaper than me. And I'm like, I think that's a compliment. Like, I'm like, so this photographer is paying money to advertise me, I think, is what just happened here.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, it's better for everybody because and I have given the advice that, once you have done all the math and you know exactly what you need to charge, if you're not willing to charge it, or at least get there within 6 months or something, I don't think you should be running a photography business. Like, keep it as a hobby.
It
It's
is
not
a
like you have to
hobby.
stop doing it. I mean, if you love it, then keep doing it, but you shouldn't have it as a business, because that is speaking to how you value yourself, right? And if you're knowingly going in charging a rate that is not going to pay you a livable wage, then what's the point? So if you go and take another job who, federally mandated has to pay you at least whatever the minimum wage is right now, I'm not saying that's going to necessarily be livable, but so many photographers end up charging things that are way, way less than minimum wage. So if you go and take a job that is at least going to pay you minimum wage, it could be a completely unskilled job, right? You could go work
Mhm,
at, I don't know, I'm just not going to I'm not going to offend anybody, but like jobs where you don't need to have any experience to get into.
mhm.
You could go work that. And like around here, I live in Lincoln, I could find one of those for $15 to $20 an hour, like completely unskilled. I don't need any experience for it. Then I'm going to be making more money doing that than I would be in photography. And also, as a result, all of those people who were charging unprofitable rates are gone out of the photography industry. And so now all the photographers who are existing are making more money because now the public is coming to them, right? Because now they're like, well, I guess this is what it's worth, because that's my only option. And so, yeah, I mean, it lifts all boats. I mean, it seems like such a no-brainer to me, but I know that I don't know, sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around at first.
Yeah, and it's just, I could go on and on about pricing. And if anybody wants to hey, Peggy, how do you price? Let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do a video and we'll talk about how do you figure in your experience? How do you figure in your equipment? How do you figure in what is a fair price? Because a lot of people don't think about how much training they've had, whether it's the training of Hard Knocks and they've really practiced and they've watched tons of videos, whether they've actually gone to college, what equipment, if you didn't own that equipment, you would have to rent that equipment. So what's the price involved in that? And you have to think about all these things, and that's your baseline. You can't charge less than that, because that's how, when you're paying taxes, those are the things that are going to depreciate, and the cost of your equipment that are going to be deductible from your taxes. You have to know all of these things to run a business. Oh my gosh, yeah. You can, I could go on tangent after tangent with you about this for sure. But Bonnie, I am so thankful that you took the time to hang out with me today. I will put all of your information in the description so they can check out your list. They can check out your website and, contact you as well. So thank you for hanging out with me.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.